Hello, it's Gwen. Today is Monday at 2:58 p.m. It's March the 12th, 2018. And I got to give in and talk about the Black Panther movie. I finally saw it. Had to take a drink of my liquid here. Okay. I don't want to go over the things that I've already heard some of the other reviewers say. I I suggest that you listen to all of them. So I'm not going to go repeat what they said. At least not a lot. One of them that I listened to so far is Dr. Umar Johnson's. I loved his, and then I liked Sin's. There's not a one of them that I didn't like, but I want to just either A, bring some new insight, or B, second some of the stuff they said. First and foremost, it was a very, very, very good movie. A very good movie. If Well, I'm a person that likes a lot of action adventure, so I was already sold when it had the special effects, no matter what race of people it was. But I'm glad to have seen black people being portrayed differently than we usually see them. It's obvious that we're hungry for it. So no matter what, I would have liked the movie. I mean, I like all of those kind of movies. Those are my kind of movies. So I like that. The acting was superb. One of the best scenes that I saw in it was toward the end when they were having a big battle. Oh, yes, and this will be spoilers. Spoiler alert all through this, okay? One of the most important scenes was when I saw acting was when they were having a big battle and the general was had the knife to her beloved's throat because he was on the opposite side of the battle. And he said something like, "Will you kill me, beloved?" And she said quickly, in a heartbeat, basically. I'm paraphrasing, in a heartbeat, if it uh, threatens our land. And then she held the knife to his throat, but her eyes were pleading with him not to challenge it. And that's what I saw was great acting because even though there were no words, her facial eyes alone showed how sorry she was to have to kill him. She didn't kill him because he surrendered, but she was so sorry to have to even be put in that position. And there was no facial expression, just the expression in her eyes alone. As you could see that she was pleading and begging him not to challenge it. And he didn't. He set his stuff down and surrendered, as he should. But that's some serious acting where you can make one part of your face show what you're show that. I like that. I really like that. There was all kind of acting in it. Wonderful acting. The main character was, in my mind, the least, the least of the characters, really. The Black Panther guy. I mean, when he came on stage, I was kind of bored with the way the Black Panther guy, was, because I was so excited to see the rest of the characters, but then I dreaded when I saw him at times because he was not the strongest character. He did the best. He acted well, mind you, but the character itself just wasn't the person I would have liked to have known. The bad guy, oh, he was all that. Now, he was a good enough actor to make me love him, hate him at the same time, which is a complex thing. He lost me when he burned up the flowers, because yeah, if I would have been plotting to kill his butt. Picking up the lady by her neck is one thing, but burning up the flowers, which is something that outranks him in my mind, but even not respecting women or the elders, he was all of the things that we hate about ourselves when they're in our midst. Because there are people who are like that in our midst, who would threaten the elderly and women and children and all of that. So we do have those kind of people in our midst. Fortunately, they're rare, but it only takes one. So he made me love him and hate him. I like that he wanted to help other people, but I know already that where that leads at. So if he's not wise enough to know that, then he's not worthy. So that was good. All along there, we've had these two characters in real life and in history. Think of Malcolm. This is a Malcolm and Martin dynamic that we've been having, just like we had the Frederick Douglass and the Booker T. Washington dynamic. We probably had these dynamics all our lives, all our history, and we're still trying to work it out. What I like about fiction is that they show scenarios and how these scenarios can play out. And so we can act it out in fiction and work out the bugs and know what to do because that fiction can give you hindsight and insights. So that's what I liked about that. Like that uh, dynamic going on because we've got a lot to think about. I say neither one of those were the right solution. I say both of them were wrong because it should have been something different. And I don't like that it was leading us to these two dynamics that we've been living and getting wrong for a very long time. So the characters, I love that they went on and acknowledged the female warrior cast that's all through Africa, really. And I like that because they show that what you can do. Like I've always said in my other videos, black women aren't monolithic kind of folk, and we're not easy to categorize. I hope that word character on my slide there don't look right, but let me give me a minute. Let me make sure this is spelled right. 'Cause, well, shoot. Okay, never mind. If that's spelled wrong, please forgive me. It just don't look right. But okay, let's just roll on. Okay, with the character development like that, it's real positive because it showed us at multi levels, which is closer to the reality. All of us work with black women, right? And we see how complex we are right there in front of us all the time. But in the big screen, we've got the one dimensional characters, and none of us are like that, which is why we watch them because they're fascinating because they aren't in our real life. Now, we might have people who imitate them who are shallow enough minded to imitate them at some point, but they'll find out that they're not really living a happy life that they would rather have. And so that eventually goes away. So the character development, I like that because they were multi-level individuals, in which and I cannot tell you how precious that is. Other thing I liked was that it showed the different nations of Africa living in harmony or in relative peace. They got different opinions, different cultures, different ways of doing things, but they acknowledged each other's right to be unique, and I appreciated that. Even the guy with the big thing that's in his lip, the big old hoop thingy, that was precious to see. I didn't have no problem with it. Plus, he had our vanity because he had it matching his clothes. I love that. I said, "Oh wow, that is funny as heck," because he's got his big old hoopy things matching his clothes. He's got on green and a green hoop. That is precious. Okay, that is precious. I love the special effects. Of course, I love the special effects. I love that. That's my kind of stuff. And the cast, like I said, I like the characters and the cast. It was a 90% black cast, and it showed us in all our levels and complexities. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them. I liked Umar Johnson when he mentioned that it didn't show motherhood, and because I hadn't really noticed it, but he's right. I agree. I do would have liked to have seen the warrior women go home to their husbands and show their motherly side. Like, say her husband is picking her up after work while she's setting a spear on her back and picking up her baby, and and they going about their business. It could have been in the background. It didn't have to even be in the foreground, but it could have just took a few seconds to show them getting out from work and exchanging their duties and going, to see their being picked up and in the embrace of their families. You know, and it didn't wouldn't have taken a second, because it could have just been in background while the main stuff on in the forefront, and that could have happened. So he's right. They should have showed that part. The story itself, it's a good story. It's a good story. It's a good enough story. Okay. The way it flowed and all, and it's a nice enough story. But I'm gonna move to hear the bad. Is also the story, because it's a relatively dumb story. I give. Well, because I watched so much of this and these type of things, and because I studied history, this is a predictable story. It's predictable. Yeah, I give in. I gotta say it. Everything about it, yeah, yeah, it's predictable. I'm glad that we were shown in our complexity and all of that, and I'm glad that it's showing that this is a thing where you got something precious and you took care of it and built on it. But we've already done that, and we've already lived it. That's Africa in itself. We've already done this. I'm gonna come back to that when I get to my conclusions. The other one, which is the coon, there's the two factions again. We wouldn't have called Malcolm, I mean, we wouldn't have called Martin a coon in his day, because we were still trying to integrate. He was speaking on behalf of full Africa America. African Americans are, as they call it, black and colored. No, they call it colored then, or Negro then. But he was speaking on behalf of a good majority of black people who wanted to integrate. He was not speaking in a vacuum. He wasn't making that up. That I Have a Dream speech was brought tears to people's eyes. They wanted integration. We, as black people, wanted integration. We wanted to be with white people. White people had dangled the fruit of being with them as such an ideal that they made us hungry for it. Just like they dangled commercials making you want a particular car, they sold us themselves as being these ideal people living in this ideal state. Only now, with hindsight, do we see the fallacy. Okay? So that's why I would tell anybody that we did have to do the civil rights and integration thing so that we could see that it doesn't work. We did have to do it. We had to live through it, and then we can see how big of a dead end that was. That's the only use the civil rights movement was for us, was to show that it didn't work. So sometimes you got to go up a dead end road to see that it's a dead end. Nobody telling you to go the other way would have stopped you from going up the dead end road. So sometimes you got to go to the dead end road. And that's what civil rights movement was, a dead end road for us. So now that we see that, only now can we embrace things like separation. So Martin in his day would not have been called a coon. And I still don't call him a coon. But I will call T'Challa one. And he doesn't think of himself that either. And only reason I would now is because of the way it ended. Really, he was looking for insulation and isolation. But in my mind, if you want insulation and isolation, then you should have never sent your people out to spy. You can spy from satellites. Because isolation, if you're going to isolate, stay isolated. But they weren't. He was out there intermixing, and he's going to be a Marvel hero, which means that he would be with people that aren't isolated, putting his people not isolated. Now, our silliness. Yeah, and forgive me if I spelt that wrong. We're letting the agent in our house, really. When the agent got shot, which is white man CIA agent, as agent as you can get, he got shot and he got brought to Wakanda to be healed. I get that, because you pay a debt, you honor your debts. But you should have put him right back out. Kept him isolated, don't see nothing, don't hear nothing, kept him under, heal him if you must, and then put him back. ooh, excuse me, put him back out in the world where he didn't see anything. I get trying to pay your debt, but you should not have let him see anything. We have already been through that. That's what the 60, that's what was wrong in the civil rights movement because we let white people in our house. They saw that we can spin gold out of straw, that is, having us in poverty, but yet we were able to live good, not special, but we were able to feed ourselves and cobble together a piece of wood to make something pretty, and they resented it. They resented that we were living decent even though we had next to nothing. They got mad at us because out there in the suburbs or wherever they lived at, they had so much that they had in their possession, yet they didn't live their lifestyle that much better than poor black people. Really, yeah, yeah, yeah. My mom worked out there in the suburbs in upper middle class white families, and they had nice things. They had beautiful things. They had things we never heard of. But when we come back in the inner city, our inner reactions with each other and our little minor pictures we would hang on the wall that we painted or drew ourselves seemed to look and be special. They found out that we weren't scraping in the dirt, literally. But that we would take what we had and clean it and care for it and fix it up, that we could take something comfortable. We could make a nice coffee table out of a few bricks or some wood and put it together and it'll look decent and be of good service. The only white men would come in the house in the old days would be the insurance man, and even and that's as close as we got to an agent in a house. And even the insurance man tried to buy my grandmother's pewter from her that had been passed down through her family for years, just pewter, four pewter dishes that she just liked to look at. They were beautiful, just miniatures, and he wanted to buy that from her. He's looking at her, is that pewter? Because she's sitting there in the projects, in a projects building house, where she made us wax the floors and wash the walls and scrub this and that so that it's clean. And she had little pewter pots on her window sill that was passed down from her grandmother, and just sitting there. And he looked at it and said, is that pewter? Yeah. And she was happy that he thought it was pretty, but he tried to buy from her and she wouldn't sell it to him. And he was mad at her because he wouldn't sell it, because she wouldn't sell it to him. Okay? These kind of little things and steps were happening all across black America when white people were coming into your home for various reasons. Like the welfare, when we were trying to get on AFDC, the social worker would come in and look around and figure out how you live and various things, smell your food that you cook and want to, eat this and eat that. And yes, white people will eat at black people's tables endlessly. If you offer food, and us being what we were, we would offer food if we have food on the table and it's time to eat. They didn't ever eat at my grandmom's house, but they would have. And some of them have eaten in various houses. And yeah, yeah, come in to do something, and if there's something going on, we'll feed you. And they have at my granduncle's house. I can remember one. Let's see. So our silliness, we let the agent in the house. We should know better than that. And that's was just endlessly stupid. You are that intelligent, yet you yet let that fool look around at what you had. But that's what we do. That's why I'm saying I wouldn't want us to have a Wakanda at this moment, because we're not ready. If we had endless, big, boundless stuff that was important and valuable, we wouldn't keep it. All you do is make them more rich because they get it from you, and that's part of our silliness. That's part of our silliness, and I'm gonna come back to that. I didn't like that it limited to two choices only, like the Malcolm and Martin struggle that we had, their positions, and the Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington. I think, please don't get mad at me if I got their names wrong for that period of time, but it was somebody back way back when They had a dichotomy too. And so they've been arguing this a while. I don't think it should be limited to two choices. I think there should be a merging and a evaluation of those positions, but they are not the only positions. Okay, like I don't mind Killmonger's position, but it needed to be shifted a little bit. Just like I didn't mind T'Challa's position, but they needed to be shifted a tad. Because I don't think either one of them were 100% right or wholly right or even majority right. I think it should have been a little bit different. And finally, here's my conclusions. We already had a Wakanda. We've had it several times. The whole of Africa was a Wakanda. Okay? They had the mineral riches all through Africa, yet they still lost it. The reason why people are downtrodden in Africa and in the world is because we let them take what we already had. Okay? We don't see the things that are precious when we have them, and we have a history of that. That's how we got broken. There was this king in Africa that went to Europe, but he brought all this gold with him and gave it away. They loved him and they loved his gold, but they also proceeded to come and conquer his country to get more gold. Same thing in South America. The South Americans didn't mind giving people gold, okay? But you're dealing with folks who don't look at that as charity. They look at that as you stupid and ready to be conquered, in which they proceed to do. So they have conquered the whole world. We already had a Wakanda. There were people in Africa walking around on top of diamonds because diamonds weren't precious in Africa. The precious stones and semi-precious stones, which are essentially rocks. So if you got a chunk of diamond rock, which essentially looks like a big old rock with a pretty center, but it basically looks like a rock, and a river rock right next to it. At least you can do something with the river rock and the diamond. But you'll wear it as jewelry and fix it up, but you won't see that as particularly valuable because it's a rock that's laying on the ground. And they had semi-precious rocks all over Africa on the ground, diamonds and diamond dust and gold. It wasn't hard to get before colonization. It was decorative. It wasn't used like money, and it wasn't used preciously. Okay? We already had that. So having given us another Wakanda ain't gonna help us because we don't know what to do with what we already got. We can do this now. We never didn't have that. We're not using what we do have, and we're not earning the level of mental infrastructure to fix it and deal with it. And that's my problem because us as people haven't got the mental infrastructure, that is the things inside of our mind to make this work, even if we did have it, or even if we did have exposure to all of the vibranium and uranium or whatever else, anything precious. Remember when I would talk about if black people's urine became a precious commodity, we would still lose control of that industry. Even urine coming out your body, we would still be poor because we don't know how to keep what we have and control what we have. That's what we just did with hip hop, rap, uh, and any number of things. That's We're making other people rich. That's what we do with clothes, jewelry, everything. We make other people rich. Just like we just did with this movie. We went and spent our money and it grossed a billion. It's already hit the $1 billion mark. Okay? So we've been making other people rich. They paid their actors less than anybody and they made that big of a profit because they are gold. We are gold. but we don't control our own commodity, and because we don't control ourselves. So we already had our Wakandas, and we still have it. We don't recognize that we have it. We've got things right now in our midst that we don't recognize are precious or even useful, that we haven't recognized and we don't see the value in. And we're throwing it away, and people are coming and scooping it up, and we're looking at them using it and getting mad at them. But we don't realize how precious so many things are that we already have. But we only get mad at them when they're using it. That's what we're getting mad at them that took over hip hop and rap and the other genres of music. And it's not ending with rap and hip hop, and it didn't start with rap and hip hop. It goes all the way back through history. I think it said that it started classical music is mentioned, as well as C&W and ragtime and rock and roll. Excuse me, and all. But we get mad at them because we a co-sign on it and told them they were valid in that genre, and they took it over and ran, and we get mad at it because it's gone. We should, but we should have protected it when we had it and not sell out and not sell it, because we never needed to co-sign them on their stuff. But we have this phrase in our community called good enough for that's good for a white boy, where we lowered the standard of what it needed to be. And so we got an Elvis Presley doing that flicked jumping around scooting thing he does. That's hysterical, really. But he's their king. He would have been a throwaway. He's a throwaway for us, but he's a king to them. And since they have the big dollars and the big population, and they are able to focus their money on their own like they do, he's a big deal now. But he's not to us because he's funny, amusing. We don't need handouts. Yeah, we don't need the handout. As in, teach me to fish rather than hand me fish. We need to learn how to keep what we got. Right now, we need a handout or two because right now we haven't been taught to keep what we got, and now they've taken away our taking and taken away what they were doling out. While we have still have some things that they're doling out, we got to use this opportunity to learn how to make and build and keep what we got. Right now, I know of black people who don't even want to work in a food pantry or a food um, giveaway program for black people because they're afraid that white people are going to walk up and take it. Because the black people who are in need are always dragging around white people with them. And these are people who are vultures in your midst, in our midst. Okay? If we don't get that through our head, we ain't going to get ahead. We can't have the vultures in our midst anymore. So we don't even mess with them. Even the ones who have knowledge don't go to places where the people who are going to heckle and beat us up and get mad at us when we're talking about things that help, such as not still fooling around with Christianity. I have Christians in my family. I don't challenge them. Because they put up with me talking about my non-Christian stuff, but I know I'm talking to a wall. So if none, if and so if none of us can really help the people closest to us, how are we going to help the other folk? So the most we can do is put the word out in a peaceful way online so that if you want to see it, you can click the button and at least look at it in a passive way. We can put it out passively. That's the best we can do because nobody wants to be filled with the confrontation. Where you ride on the subway and there's a Christian on there shouting at you or shouting at the whole subway train because they want to praise when you know darn well that this deity didn't help you or help us. And they would say things like, he brought me from a mighty long way. But I say, if he didn't bring everybody, all of us, then it don't count. Let me pause this a minute and blow my nose. Okay, I'm back. That's one of the main things that I would call the dividing line when you're a Christian, or even or anybody. It's where you say, whether or not I'm okay, it don't count unless we're all okay. It don't count unless we all okay, and we are not all okay. So I'm in pain, and we all in pain. So we all got to fix it. And so that's where we're having our problem at, because even if we do fix it, we want to drag other people in it, fixing them. They do not drag us in to help us be fixed. When they have their party, it's only their party. When we have our party, we invite everybody. And we got to stop that because it's not helpful to us. So we don't need handouts because we have the tools to get what we need, but we need to learn how to use it, and we need to learn how to keep it. That my final thing is that this is not a fictional dilemma. This movie gave us a lot to think about. A lot to think about. That's what I concluded when I left, is that we have a lot to think about because we're living this dilemma right now, and that's what I like about it. I don't like their conclusions and what they did with it, but I do like that they pointed that out. This is a lot of coded stuff. It's as coded as Get Out was. The movie Get Out, which I didn't see because I already knew to Get Out, but the reviews on Get Out was essentially a debriefing. And I like this Black Panther movie and other people online reviewing it because it is a debriefing, which is beautiful. Because that's all. Because we all need to think about it, think and figure stuff out. And so that's not a fictional dilemma. And finally, we can do this now. There is nothing about Wakanda and our understanding that is unique. We have this. We've had it. We've had it. We have had this. It we already got it. Think about it. What's wrong with Wakanda is that it's us, essentially. We haven't used the tools at hand to build what we can right now because we don't know how. And we're not focused on it, and it's been bred out of us. So the solution is to learn, isolate, and protect. Learn the skills that we need. When I took history, I took economic history, I took history of capitalism, I took legal history, and I wanted to take the history of population movings. But I was already, froze, but the teacher gave me the syllabus so I can read the books. We all need to learn this kind of stuff so that we can build. Some people would call it nation building. I call it black population building. What was wrong with Wakanda in the end there was when and I don't know if anybody else noticed it or not because I don't hear a lot about it. But at the end, when he was standing there talking to the new United Nations, talking about, he said, Wakanda, da da da, and we want to share what we have to the world. And the guy said, what do you have to share? And he just smiled. That's, we've already done this. But this is our dilemma. We were so busy trying to impress other people that we just gave away everything again. We've already done that too. We've already done that too. We always are so busy trying to impress other people with what we're bringing to the table that we lose everything at the table. That's so I don't know if anybody else picked on that, but we do this. We've done this before. What we they said, what do you have to bring? And we bring everything and we plop it down and promptly get it taken away from us, and we don't even have control of it. Now, if the world gets Wakanda's resources, only thing they ever do is what they ever did, which is build better weapons. They do not make better food. They make worse food if they did use it because it's more poison. They don't make better schools. They don't do anything good to anybody in the world but white people because they push themselves ahead and control everything as best they can. Even if it's no situation that needs controlling, they push themselves in front to control because that's what they do. So they just did what we always did, and he's just brought all these resources to the table, and he's gonna present it, and then you still have to prove yourself like we always had to. And he's gonna blow their socks off with all the stuff they got to offer. We've been here before. We've been here before. And looks like in that movie they're going there again. That's what you can't win with that. So this time, if there were a choice, I would say that Wakanda should funnel the money to black schools, build schools for black people to go to so that we can learn, and give the students a stipend if you must. Give the students a stipend if you must. Even if they cashed out and gave every black person on the planet, I don't know, $1 million each, we would still be broke in 30 days, okay? Because we don't know how. Everybody else will be $1 million richer, and we'll have our trinkets that we got, but we will not have built any industry. We will not have built any schools. We will not have built any hospitals. We will not have built urban infrastructure. We will barely even fix up the place that we live, let alone buy the building that we live in, because we don't think like that. So no shortcut is gonna work with us. So handing us Wakanda's resources will not work because we don't have the mental infrastructure to even protect it, or even learn to keep it, or build on it. We don't do that. The Rockefellers, the Kennedys, the Rothschilds, the robber barons of the prohibition area and such built on what they had. They built infrastructure in their communities. The Irish people built jobs. They had all that gangster stuff in those days. They built industry. They built factories. They controlled them. They did all kind of mean stuff, but they still built that factory, and the people had it and worked on it, and they worked for them. Okay, so all of that steel industry got built that way. The tobacco industry got built that way. Liquor, it started off with vices, but it morphed into other things that they built. Okay, like you built your refrigerators and washing machines and stuff like that in those days. So they built on what they had. And that whole community was in on it. You didn't cross certain people because the whole community recognized that their job came from this robber baron, and they had an insulated, protected community. We haven't learned how to do that. We would have to have a movement to figure out how to even insulate and protect our community. And then we would have to climb an uphill battle here, and everybody else tell us we shouldn't, while they have theirs at their where they are. Okay, so we're already at a disadvantage because we don't even understand how to protect ourselves. Isolate. Well, basically, isolate ourselves so that we can focus on ourselves. We're depleted because everything goes out. Once it hits in, we don't keep nothing. All that we build, all that we earn is right back out the door. It's like a digestive tract, in and out. You get some nutrition, but it still goes right back out. I'm not saying be constipated, but I do want our money to circulate a little bit before it goes out. Like everybody else. That's all I'm saying. Everybody else has that. They say in Asia it goes around 20 something times before it actually leaves. So it is in the rest of it. In some areas it don't ever go out. Like the rich white people, the one percenters, that money doesn't leave, it stays and they still have it. That's all I'm saying is that we just need to learn how to do that and learn how to isolate and build on what we already got instead of putting it out. That's all. It's nothing mean to anybody else. No, as they say, no shade on other folk, but we just need to focus. And that's why we're being depleted, is because we send stuff out. Protect what you have and protect each other. Like I say, sometimes our love for each other is the greatest threat to the world. If we figure out how to love each other and show it and protect and take care of each other, the rest of the world's economy will fall because they can't take our resources because we're protective of each other. White supremacy will fall if we focus on loving each other because we won't be a tool for white supremacy to use. They would have to come all the way over there and mess with us, and then if we're fighting and loving each other and protecting each other, that won't even work. In fact, they'll probably die off really soon because they won't even be able to mix blood with other groups. And you know, I've already said not to um, have sex. I mean, get out of white people's bed. That's basically get out of the bed of other races. If you're still in the bed with another race, this is not the video or the place for you. It's good for you to come learn, but it's not going to be nothing you want to hear in here. So yeah, get out of their beds. Plus, I would say get away from them being your friend because they're not really your friend at this time. The evilness file has been downloaded in their brain, so you can just move on. It doesn't help. It's always been a dead end, and yeah, it's just a dead end. So yeah, protect yourselves, protect each other, protect whatever resources and such that you do get, and keep it. Let it build and build on it. So we've already got the tools for Wakanda. We never not had the tools. We're not using the tools that we had any more than we did in all our history. We need to take another step, a side step from that path, because we've been on that path. So now we just need to step on a different path and do it a different way. And that's the lesson of the movie. I don't know if they meant that to be a lesson, but that's a lesson I got. Is that okay? We done seen these two scenarios, see how it played out. We can sidestep that scenario and go a different direction. And that's it. That's all. Okay, I'm done. That's all I got to say at this time. Thanks for listening to me. Bye.